Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are. Hosted by Desiree Duffy.
It is time to gather around the radio. Welcome to Books That Make You. I am your devilish host this evening, Desiree Duffy. And we're talking about books that make you crave a deliciously crafted horror novel, one you can really sink your teeth into. How yummy is a horror novel? One that hits the flavors of the genre and leaves you feeling oh so satisfied. Are you picking up on the food references here? Not so subtle, am I? There's a reason for that, because our guest today not only wrote a tasty, scary book, but he's also a renowned celebrity chef and a man of many, many talents and creative devices. David Ruggerio wrote the book, A Wistful Tale of Gods, Men, and Monsters. Now, he's also an amazing chef, having begun his career at the legendary New York eatery La Caravelle. He honed his culinary skills in France at several of the country's leading restaurants, and he went on to host his own show on PBS and was a famed chef in New York, and he has cooked for 5 U.S. presidents. David has written 2 acclaimed cookbooks, which were published by Artisan Books, Little Italy with David Ruggerio, and David Ruggerio's Italian Kitchen. But today, my friends, we're talking about A Wistful Tale of Gods, Men, and Monsters. Because as the leaves turn colors and the crispness of autumn fills the air, there's nothing better than curling up with a scary book. Am I right, David, or am I right?
Absolutely, Desiree. You got it right on the nose.
How you doing?
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Good. How you doing?
I love your book. I love the cover. I just adore everything. I'm a fan of horror, so what's not to like. But you gotta tell me, a celebrity chef turned horror writer. That's quite a combination. Tell us how that came about.
I don't know. Maybe I stood in the heat too long and I cooked my brains. But no, I gotta tell you, from an early age, I loved horror. I mean, not just horror. I like the classic horror. The 1930s, the Draculas and the Frankensteins and those type of horrors. I really loved that. And, for the longest time, I wanted to write. I'd written the cookbooks, as you said, but I wanted to write something. And you write what you love to read. And since I love to read horror, I said, you know what? Coming from Brooklyn, we never understood the word no. Well, you can't. So why not? I gave it a shot. It took me about a good year to write it. I took my time and I wrote something that I would enjoy reading to my grandchildren. I tried to make a book that is not for me to call it a classic, but a book in the classic genre of horror where, you bring it out at Halloween. And what's more appropriate to talk about this, excuse me, now, since Halloween is just around the corner.
Oh, absolutely. And I love how it have universal horror themes in the book. And it is something that you can read with the kids, and it's not super duper scary or anything like that. And you got to tell me, what was your friend's reaction, your family, when you said, hey, by the way, I'm going to write a horror novel?
Yeah, sure, okay, give him another drink. He must have lost his marbles, No, but, my close friends know me by now, and they know that whatever I put my mind to, I'm going to do it. And to be frank, if at the end of the day I wrote a book and I read it and I says, oh my God, this is not too good, I wouldn't have tried to even attempt to get it published. But I enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoyed it. And even my wife who hates horror. I asked her to help to edit it. She read it, and she says, my God, you know something? It's not bad at all. I really enjoyed it. And so that was like a big kudos for me. But I'll tell you, I write now that I've gotten into writing. I like to incorporate things that are real. Obviously it's fictional, but I like to write things that you as the reader can look out and say, oh, I know that place, or I know that person, I've heard of that person. So in this book, being I'm from New York, I love upstate New York and New England at this time of the year when the leaves change and the pumpkins are ready to pick and people go into the apple orchards and they go into the hay, the corn is ready. I just love that. And you go in upstate New York and there's this small town, an obscure town called Brunswick, New York. And within Brunswick, they have a cemetery that's been abandoned almost 100 years. And it's fell into disrepair. And within that cemetery, there's an old mausoleum, really scary. And they even have an angel, a statue of an angel that's head has fallen off. And people that sneak into the cemetery at night swear that they see that angel bleed at night. Ooh. So as time has gone on, horror aficionados have donned this cemetery as being one of the 10 scariest places in America. So I focused on that. When I snuck in there at night, I looked at it, and I even saw a few ghosts, believe it or not.
So no.
Anyway,
you snuck in there at night and you saw ghosts in the cemetery.
It is. And believe it or not, I swear I saw a few ghosts.
What did you see? What did they look like?
That's for later. But anyway.
Okay.
I swear I wasn't drinking either.
I believe you.
Yeah, this is the focus of the book, is this cemetery, this town that was tailor-made for a horror novel, to be the backdrop for a horror novel. It really it worked out great. So this is what I used as one of the, you could actually read this, and a lot of the places I talk about in this book, you can go up to Brunswick. Maybe the locals won't be too happy about the infamy I've put on them, but you can go up there and enjoy it.
I love that you pulled in that reality, because you're right. People could go on like a cemetery walking tour, read the book, and then go and visit and see the places that they just read about. That's amazing.
There's a little it's a lot of the towns in upstate New York have Revolutionary War history. I mean, Washington, Hamilton, they all, with the British, fought wars up there. And there's a small one-room schoolhouse that dates back to that era. And it even teach school. They still teach school in there. But people swear at night that in the dark on full moons, that there's the image of a girl that supposedly was murdered behind the schoolhouse can be seen at night. And that's true. That's a real schoolhouse. And I also incorporate that in the book. So you could see there's a lot of twists and turns in this story, but there's also a lot of places that you could have fun visiting. And at this time of the year at Halloween, it's a great place to go.
And the cover of your book is very frightening as well. Bree, who works with me, when she saw it, she was like, OMG, that book cover gave me nightmares last night. So it does the trick. So can you describe the cover for us?
That is a classic, old classic painting from, my God, it's got to be 400 or 500 years old. And it is the image of Saturn eating one of his children. Mm-hmm. And yes, it is. It's pretty scary. Let me put it to you this way. you scroll through a list of books, or you walk down a bookstore aisle, it's going to catch your attention. And it comes into play. There's an old, creepy, abandoned, you get the theme here, creepy, old, abandoned in this book. There's an old, abandoned mortuary. And when you enter the person that originally owned the mortuary had a sick sense of humor, and his decor in the mortuary reflected on that sick sense of humor. So when you first enter, you open the door of the mortuary. This painting that's on the cover of my book is the first thing people that came to visit their loved ones were greeted by, this horrific painting. And it really sets the tone, I believe, for what you're going to read later in the book.
That is quite a scene to see. If that's your loved ones, that's, oh my God, because that is horrific. Okay, everybody has to go and look up the book and check out the cover, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. And it does. David, your book hits so many notes of the genre. If you're a fan of something that's moody, gothic, creepy horror, you're going to love it. And it's cool that you did the research in person, and you obviously had fun doing the research, and you drew a lot of inspiration there. What authors or what other books inspired you?
I love Stephen King. I mean, how could you not love Stephen? I mean, at least I do. I know there are people that are not lovers of his, but I really love all Stephen King's books. And I want to say this. I don't sit here now. I don't have a BA. I'm not I don't have my master's in literature or anything of the kind. So I don't sit here and say, I'm a writer because I got published. I'm really a storyteller. That's what I feel that I am. You know, I grew around a household with a lot of family, and stories were told around the table at night. And so I learned to tell these type of stories through the old timers, the master storytellers. So what I really did here in this book is I didn't want to have one of these books that you needed a scorecard to keep track of all the characters that came and gone, and half the time the characters disappeared in the story and you didn't even know what happened to them. You know, I tried to keep it somewhat simple in the way of the amount of characters that are involved and they're the type of people that you would expect to find in an upstate or in a New England town, right? And although some are going to say, well, after they read it, some of the stuff is kind of cliched. Okay, I'd rather say it's more classic. I mean, the mortuary, the abandoned mortuary, and a cemetery, and and that type of stuff. It's been done before, but it is horror. It is that type of horror, that classic horror, that me as the storyteller, I wanted to incorporate in my first foray into writing horror. And it's the type of book, it's kind of, I'll tell you another. I love Washington. You asked about the authors, and although he wrote more than just horror, certainly, and Sleepy Hollow is not what most people would call horror, I love Washington Irving. And he also wrote about that area of New York. And to be honest, that area of New York hasn't changed vastly since he wrote Sleepy Hollow back in the day and during his period. So what I really wanted to do is, in my own way, in my own words, I wanted to take that Sleepy Hollow, what Washington Irving did, and I wanted to bring it into the modern era, and I wanted to give it that feel, and I wanted to create my story within those confines, within the confines with Washington Irving, the way he designed his book. And of course, I'm not putting myself in his category, but I had the template. He left me and many other writers with a template to work with. And it made me formulate this book easy. It really made it easy. And I hope that people, now that they know where I got my inspiration, will see where I took that story and where I went with it. And hopefully they enjoy what I did with it.
And if you wrote a book, you are a writer, David. There's nothing wrong with pulling that inspiration and being true to the genre. Hey, mortuary cemeteries, yes, they're tropes in horror novels, but that's also why we love them. You take something like that and, like you said, you give it a modern spin. That's the fun thing about genre fiction, is taking something that we know is tried and true and twisting it a little bit. And again, it's a fun read, it's scary, it's suspenseful, and that's exactly what we crave right around this time of the year. So tell me, as a chef, talking about cravings, what food or beverages do you think pairs well with your book, or maybe just scary books in general?
I think that, we're talking about Halloween, and, Halloween's only a couple of weeks away. So what I would love to pair this with is that for all you out there that have children or grandchildren, coming back from your trick-or-treating and so forth, I know all you older people, all you adults, when the kids aren't looking, you pick through the bag and you grab the candy that you have a particular liking for.
Yep.
Well, while they're not looking, do what you got to do and go get a copy of this book. Put some scary music on. Sit down with that candy and the Kit Kats, and so you know what I like. I like the Kit Kats.
I guess so.
And get that candy corn. Come on, we all still like candy corn and so forth. Make the hot chocolate. It's a must. That hot chocolate's a must. Dim the lights, and introduce yourself. Not only yourself, but your children and your grandchildren to my book. And then what I want you to do every year after, if you really liked it, and you think that I am truly a writer, then I would like you to pick it up at some point during the Halloween period and reintroduce it to your children and the new members of your family, and because that's what I tried to do. I tried to write a book that me, as a new grandfather this year, next year, I'm going to read it to my grandchildren and so on. And that's what I hope. And that's what I would pair it with. Go get that candy and dim the lights and have some fun.
I love that. I love that. With a nice crackling fire in the background,
Oh,
too.
if you got a fireplace, forget it. Now you're talking. Desiree, you're a woman after my own heart.
I am. And you know something else? So yeah, this is Halloween time, and your book drops on the 30th. So
Yes.
before, people can pre-order it, and afterwards they can buy it. But even after that, there's that wonderful Victorian-era Christmas tradition of telling scary stories and gathering with the family. So I think people, they can read it during Halloween time, definitely. But they could also make it like a Christmas tradition, kind of like a Christmas carol.
I think it's that type of a book. I don't think that. Listen, if you're an aficionado of horror, you're not going. I don't believe you're going to be disappointed. The only thing is, I don't have zombies and people eating human flesh and stuff like that going on, and it's not so psychological that you got to take a Xanax to read it. It's more straightforward, and it's like I said. I think I'm going to appease the horror aficionados, but again, like you said, it's not that horrific, that stomach turning that you can't read it during the Christmas time, or even during New Year's Eve. If you and your loved one are alone by a fire, it's also a great time to read. So I hope you all enjoy it.
you're like a Renaissance man. You have all of these different talents and skills and interests because your next book, you're going almost 180 degrees in the other direction. Do you want to talk about what you're working on next?
Yeah, it's my next book is another fiction, but it's not horror. It's romance. It's coming out. It's going to premiere on June 11th this coming year. It's called Say Goodbye and Good Night. I believe I grew up in Brooklyn, so it's set in Brooklyn. I was a fighter as a kid. I was a pro fighter, so it's I can't help it. But the hero in this book is a young fighter in Brooklyn, and he grows up during 1977, which was one of the most tumultuous years in the history of New York. And you had the Son of Sam, and you had the New York City blackout, and it's him falling in love with this girl, and it really is my publisher is a small company called Black Rose Writing, and I gotta kiss them for buying my book and now buying my second book. But normally they don't buy the second book because I'm not established and they want to see how the first book is. But when he had his wife read the ending of the book, and there's not going to be any giveaways here. Mm-hmm. But he said, when I gave it to him, I said, well, take a look at it. And he called me the next day, and he says, my wife cried for 10 minutes after she read it. He says, so I'm buying the second book. So it's really heartwarming and warming. It's really it's going to tear at your heart a little bit. And, one of the bringing real things is like the Son of Sam, and one of the letters, the Son of Sam, he taunted the Daily News writer named Jimmy Breslin. He was a real writer, mm-hmm. and taunted him in the press, and he wrote a famous letter, and he signed it, Say Goodbye and Good Night. And that's where the title of the book comes from. And more than that, all yous out there, sorry, you got to wait till the book comes out because it'll really grab your heart, and it's a really interesting read.
What a tease. Oh, my goodness. And I can tell you've got a theme going on here, David. You like kind of juxtaposing your settings on the backdrop of something that's very real and authentic. And I love the idea of kind of this gritty, 1977 New York. Yeah, Son of Sam. Like there was just this rawness happening at the time.
It was such a colorful time that people today think that it was real. Some screenwriter just made it up for a movie, and in actuality, it was dangerous times. It was the most dangerous times, the most colorful times. It was the invention of disco. There's so much that went on during 1977 that for you out there that are interested in what I'm saying, go ahead and Google it. And it's mind-boggling what went on in New York City during 77. So it was an easy time for me to lend that time to my book, and it is really a fabulous backdrop to this type of a novel.
And tell us, what else do you got cooking, so to speak? What else is in the hopper? What are you working on? Where can people find you, find the book? I know you're doing events and signings and stuff too. Lay it on us.
Well, I got my memoir will be coming out next fall. It's called High Crimes and Haute Cuisine. And it's many people have prodded me to write this book for many years. And I finally decided to go ahead and do it. And it's my growing up in Brooklyn, not so nice time growing up in Brooklyn, to my rise in the food world, going to France, working with some of the greatest chefs in the history of French cuisine, coming back to New York, being a great chef in my own right, being discovered by the famed winemaker Robert Mondavi, who put me on television. And then my rise in television through PBS, and then becoming a star at Food Network, and then a horrific fall from grace. And It's a roller coaster ride, and that'll be coming out in the fall. And for all of you in the Northeast area, this October, coming in a couple of weeks, I'll be at the Long Island Book Fest. It's my first appearance on October 27th. I'll be signing books, and I even got a great couple of giveaways for those of you who come. And besides me, there's a lot of great authors, and that's in Long Island, New York. And for those of you who are outside the New York City area and want to know when I'm coming to your area, just go to davidruggerio.com. I have a calendar up there, and you can check out when I'll be in your area.
And tell us where people can find you on social media. You've got Instagram, I know, and Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all David Ruggerio. And like I said, www.davidruggerio.com. And then I have a literary site called Mr. Ruggerio's Neighborhood.com. If you go to davidruggerio.com, it clicks right to it. So don't worry about getting your pencil and trying to spell out Mr. Ruggerio's Neighborhood. Relax. Just go to davidruggerio.com.
It's easy.
And go to YouTube. You'll get a kick out of some of my videos and some of my TV appearances. They're a lot of fun. Yeah, great fun. You have a lot of laughs.
And that is David Ruggerio. And the book is A Wistful Tale of Gods, Men, and Monsters. And it's available, drops on October 30th, 2019. So make sure you visit Amazon, get your pre-orders in, or buy the book, and other fine retailers as well. David, thank you so much for being here today. This was fun.
Oh, Desiree, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And happy Halloween to all you guys.
Happy Halloween to you, too. And to everybody, thank you for joining us today here on Books That Make You. And you can discover more about us on our website. That is booksthatmakeyou.com. And we do all sorts of fun stuff. Actually, I think we're giving away some copies and some ghoulish goodies of David's book. So you can enter to win that. You can sign up for our email list so you can always stay up to date on all the bookish news and fun things that are going on. And you can follow us as well. We are on Facebook and Instagram.
The executive producer for Books That Make You is Desiree Duffy. Produced and sound mastered by Phil Giangrande. Engineering by Dave Nabox. Social media and promotion by Bree Sweeter. For more, visit booksthatmakeyou.com.